Hey guys, in today's video, I'll show you how to use ChatGPT and OpenAI enrichment effectively and cheaply inside of Clay.com. So specifically, if you're new to this, there are two options that you have inside of Clay. So the first option you have is to use the AI model, otherwise known as Claygent. And the second option is used for content creation. Claygent is a lot more expensive, so let me tell you the difference between the two. So essentially, Claygent in most cases is best for web research when you need to scrape and analyze websites because it has access to the internet. So you can go and scrape a website, pull some information from it, put it into a nice little sentence for you, and then there you go. Happy days, you've got what you wanted. However, because don't forget, you do not connect your LinkedIn account directly to Clay, so that you can't really tell if you have mutual connections with the individual, for example, and sometimes they may not be able to access certain information like the latest post by a person, because that requires browsing cookies. So basically, Claygent can do 90% of the heavy lifting, but sometimes it will let you down on platforms like LinkedIn. So let's give you an example of what you can use Claygent for. So let's say right now, I've got this company, which is my business, and I want to understand who is mentioned in a testimonial on the website. So all I'm going to do is select Claygent as an option. I can choose from a bunch of different Claygent models, which are 3 at the top here, or I can try using Anthropic as well, or I can use these 4.0 models as well. Now, typically, I recommend starting with the cheapest model, which typically you can tell is the cheapest because it costs you just 1 credit or half a credit. And what I'm going to do is this. I'll say visit the website and grab the name of a company mentioned in the testimonial, grab just the company name and output just the company name, nothing else. At this moment in time, we're going to save and run this just to see how that unfolds. And you can see that in this case, we generated this testimonial from Intech, and it says the company Intech was mentioned in the testimonial section of the website, b2bboosted.com. The confidence is high. And this literally cost me a 20th of a cent, or I can't even pronounce how much this cost me, right? So you can see that this cost is tiny, and it usually took 10 seconds to do that. Now, more than that, if we wanted to spice it up a bit, we can then edit this prompt and then say, then outputs the company name in a sentence following my prefix. Here is my prefix. And then we will say something like, just saw the testimonial from, and then we'll say output, and then we'll say replace the curly brackets with the name of the company. And then we can basically save and run the row all over again. And I guarantee you will generate a pretty good opening line for the email. Now, whilst that prompt loads, it's worth noting that you should always use the cheapest web scraping model first and only then connect to the more expensive one, right? Because you don't want to spend money and you don't want to waste money on this kind of thing. So that's the first thing. Now, you roughly hopefully understand what Claygent can be used for. So let's talk about the other option, which is the creative output, which is what you would use if you tick this bottom content creation manipulation option over here. So essentially, that's when you have an abundance of data. So for example, you have the company's headcount, you have their job title, their industry, you have all sorts of data points about the company, and you want to feed it all into AI and basically get it to analyze on the basis of 5 or 6 or maybe 2 or 3 different things. Is this a good fit for us or is it a bad fit for us? So 99% of the time, you just give it a bunch of information and then you say, hey, interpret this information one of 5 ways or one of 2 ways. So for example, here is everything we know about the prospect. Based on this, tell me if they fit our qualification criteria. This is our qualification criteria. Output ICP or not ICP based on this, right? So that's the most common use case. And when you want to get AI to come up with a creative output, aka generate lines for an email or to interpret and categorize certain information, just use this OpenAI enrichment, right? So when you already have a bunch of info, use this one. And as always, use the cheaper model first for simpler and lighter tasks, and then more expensive models later down the line. This brings me very nicely to talk about my favorite thing, which is why you should be connecting your API key. And specifically, let me just show you the cost difference. If you use Clay credits, it will cost you on average 0.349 per Clay credit. Now, contrast this with how much we just spent on that specific enrichment. For a bit of context as well, I just saw that this loaded another testimonial on the website. It literally cost 0.00074, which is like a 20th, a 30th of the price of a Clay credit. Not to mention that these credits expire, the Clay credits expire, but these credits don't, because you just top up OpenAI with $50 and all of a sudden you can run rows for like a month, right? So this is why you should connect OpenAI, the OpenAI API key. For that, all you need to do is basically go into OpenAI, and it would look something like this. And all you need to do is click on Create New Secret Key, just give it a name like a test, and then click on Create Secret Key. And then it gives you like this funny looking API key, which you can then use to copy and paste this inside of clay.com. So inside of Clay, now you can click on this specific option. And when you have the configuration, the model, you can click on Manage Accounts. And all you have to do is click on Add Connection, copy and paste the API key here, and you're sorted for life. You're going to save 1/10 of the price of ChatGPT forever, right? Assuming you top up the account with just a couple of dollars every now and then. And I recommend, by the way, topping up $200 up front, $201 to be precise, because this will last forever. And also you would not run into rate limits, and rate limits are when you basically can't run more than 1,000 rows at a time or more than 200 rows at a time, because OpenAI just takes like 2 weeks or so to upgrade you to that kind of more privileged position of being able to run a lot of rows since you topped up a bit more money. Now, let's talk about how to speak to AI to get the prompts right. And this is one thing that I'm super, super passionate about, because 99% of people get this completely wrong, and then they wonder why it's not working. So first of all, the first disclaimer is AI does never write the whole email, right? Unless you want to sound like a cringe AI bot, right? And most of the time, it writes no more than 4 words or no more than 12 words maximum, because you can't trust AI just yet to write the entire thing for you. So what I recommend is this. You generate a final email template before entering the Clay table, and you know this for sure because I talk about this all the time. So let's say this is your final email template. What you will then do is break it down into custom variables. And custom variables are these brackets, right? And these brackets are going to then be these tiny little components that you will be researching inside of Clay using Claygent, OpenAI, and other enrichments. So this is how you would go about it. And this is exactly how you'll go about it in any of your templates. So for example, here you can see that we basically put together this entire email, which looks something like this. But then afterwards, if you click on an individual template, you can see that it's fully personalized to the individual, right? So here we are, and it's fully personalized. And that's because we just use a bunch of custom variables. And if you're not familiar with this, all you have to do to create an entire email is click on Add Column, click on Message, and then you can just select all the custom variables. So you can say hi, first name, hi, name, and so on, right? And you can type all of that in, and then it will be replaced by the actual name of the person, as you can see here. So that's that. And moving on, we're just scratching the surface. So first of all, we just established that we should not be writing the whole email. The second thing we need to establish is that always write down the message template that you want to generate before starting to build the Clay table. And once again, I tell you this a million times, and you never, like 99% of the time, you get this wrong, and then you wonder why you burn through Clay credits, why you're overwhelmed, why you find Clay so difficult in the process, and why you waste so much time through trial and error. And this is the exact reason, because you need to write down the message before entering the Clay table, right? So let's talk about how do you actually speak to AI? Like what is the step-by-step process? And I'll give you my 2 takes on it. The first take is probably get 80% of the way there by just clicking on the Help Me button here. And if you don't know this, inside of the enrichment modules, sometimes you have the Help Me button, and over here, you can basically generate a Claygent prompt just by giving it a high-level summary, and it will basically make the prompt even better. So for example, I want to mention a company that is in a testimonial on their website, and put it into a sentence saying, saw company name testimonial on your website. And after you basically put that in, you can just click on generate prompt, and Usually it doesn't really mess it up that much, but you can see it basically like creates the entire prompt, and then you can just accept the prompt and just run it. And once again, it just depends on how polished off this thing is, but 99% of the time, this could work. And I think the reason that, I think in this case, we probably chose the wrong model, which is completely fine because it's web research. So let's just run it with the most expensive option, and let's see the output. And we can see over here that it basically just generated us the exactly same output, but obviously just mentioning another testimonial company. Once again, it's because I gave it the wrong prefix there. So I gave it the wrong sentence structure. So I basically said, I saw company name testimonial on your website. So it's not its fault that it doesn't have the apostrophe. So it doesn't say saw launch Africa's testimonial. But in other words, I'm super happy with this. And all you can do 99% of the time, just to spare yourself the trial and error with prompt generation, you just click on help me, give it a high-level summary of what you want. It will generate a prompt. You click on generate prompt. 99% of the time, it will generate it fine. And always, always don't make this mistake. So the only thing you need to do is save and run one row in this view most of the time, or save and don't run and just play one row at a time. So if you have multiple rows, just click on play just for one row to see the output before running the entire column. Otherwise, like, you're an absolute idiot for wasting a bunch of Clay credits. And I'm speaking from experience here. Next up, let's talk about if you want to use this help me function inside of Clay. Here are 6 rules to speak to AI to get it to do whatever the hell you want it to do, right? First of all, define the input. For example, the input is the company website. The second rule is define the action you want to happen to the input. For example, based on the input, I want you to go and visit their website. Then you need to constrain the output. For example, you may say, keep the output under 12 words, make sure there are no quotation marks, and there is no capitalized, like it's all in lowercase letters, for example. Then you may provide a prefix. And if you're not familiar with a prefix, it's basically just giving it like a sentence structure and saying where the brackets will be in the sentence, right? And then you say, replace the curly brackets with the output company name, for example. And finally, you may want to give it some examples. So you will say, for example, if the person worked at Apple before, say this. Or if they worked at Tesla before, say this. And then if you're still clueless up to this point, and if you're still struggling with it, you may want to feed it a system prompt. And a system prompt, for those of you that are not aware, is at the bottom here somewhere. So you can see this is the actual prompt here at the top, and you typically have the actual system prompts that you can generate as well. So you could basically give it instructions, objective and context, but I don't like doing that. So in a nutshell, you can ignore me with this prompting, but it's useful to give it some like high-level summary. So if you say, hey, you're a direct response copywriter responsible for writing the first line of an email, it's probably going to be better than if you just leave it blank, right? Next up, we're going to talk about training AI on what the company does. Once again, you can just basically just give it some info being like, hey, you're this person, here is what our product is, here is what the pain points are that we solve, blah, blah, blah. On this basis, generate the first line. But even then, I just don't think that's that useful. And I've got a bunch of other suggestions as well. So you can like guilt trip AI. So you can say, hey, my job is on the line here. I'm literally like on my last strike with my boss. Please take some time with this output and so on. But realistically, like, I don't know, I think it's the placebo effect. It helps me somehow get slightly better prompt generation from OpenAI. But essentially, this is a high-level summary of how you would use all this lovely prompts and so on. If you want, I can give you a guide with over 30 different opening lines that we've tried over the last year or so in our company. And specifically, we're going to give you the exact enrichments that you can use, the exact open lines. In some cases, we'll even give you some prompts. And on top of that, better than anything else, if you click on the text, you'll basically load a video. So for example, here, you click on that, it shows you a video of how to do it. You click on this, it shows you a video of how to do it. So literally, you can generate over 30 different first-liners just by watching a video, knowing what the prefix is and knowing what enrichment to use. So that sounds good. Then all you need to do is just click on the guide, which will be linked right underneath. Now, if you liked this video, consider subscribing to the channel. It helps a ton. I'm on route to 1,000 subscribers by the 1st of July at this rate. I'm going to be posting a video every single day until I hit 1,000 subscribers, hopefully. So call me out if I don't, and I'll see you in the next video. And by the way, drop some comments down below of some videos you want to see in the future, because I'm kind of like getting tired of just thinking of new ideas every single time. Anyways, over and out. Have a good one.